Developed in secret. The GreaseBlade should not exist. Denied by the government. Disowned by ZeniMax. The GreaseBlade is the ultimate 1vx Nightblade build.
Guys, I think there's something wrong with me. Look, I went to the Infinite Archive yesterday, I came back, now I have red glowing eyes and I hear voices in my head, please help.
Created out of necessity, this build serves as a living shadow on the battlefield. Undisturbed and almost untouchable. Whoever the GreaseBlade chooses as its vassal becomes like the night itself.
Yeah, sorry, I've been trying to get this build video out for a while now, but I've kind of hit a roadblock. You know, I've been dealing with some internal struggles. You bot, go away. Listen, this build video is going to happen, and you're not going to stop me. Okay. Welcome to my Stamina Nightblade 1vx build for the, I don't even know what DLC we're on, so just, for ESO in 2025, alright? This is the Legendary GreaseBlade build that I use in Cyrodiil and in BGs to harass the local population. I made this build about 5 months ago for the Battlegrounds Brawl event, and have continued tweaking it and tuning it ever since to try and enable it to fight as many people as possible, all at the same time, because to be honest, ESO has gotten really boring recently, and well, one of the few things that still excites me about ESO is Outnumbered PvP, which is what this build was made for. Look, there are timestamps in the description of this video if you want to return to this build in the future to make it, or you just don't like me for some reason. Listen. Having said that, this build is very fun and it does its job very well when it's not lagging. It has phenomenal damage, decent survivability, and good sustain. And combo that with a little bit of footwork, and that gives us an approachability rating of about 3 out of 5 stars, at least for the version that I use. I do cover a Walmart variation of this build later in the video for folks that don't have any DLCs and stuff, and that's easily a 5 out of 5 stars for its approachability rating because, well, it's a lot more forgiving to play than what I normally run, but it doesn't have anywhere near the same damage potential, so listen, I like doing a lot of damage. And I do have a montage for you guys to show you the power of the GreaseBlade in its natural environment, but before you watch it, please consider subscribe. Please, look, I want to get to 10k subs, but I don't know what I gotta do to make you subscribed if you're not already subscribed. Like, maybe the montage will change your mind? I don't know. But I do hope you enjoy the montage. Go down, you idiot! Taking a look at our attributes, we have 58 points into stamina, 6 points into health, and no points into magic. These are the stats of our front bar unbuffed. These are the stats of our back bar unbuffed. And buffing up, these are the stats of our front bar, and these are the stats of our back bar. And let's check on that critical damage. For our race, we are a cat, obviously, for the passives that we get. Those being Robustness, increasing all of our recoveries. Lunar Blessings, increasing all of our max stats. And Feline Ambush, increasing our critical damage and critical healing by 12%, and making us a hide-and-seek pro. Cat pairs very, very well with Nightblade and its passives and how the class works overall. Other races like Wood Elf, Dark Elf, and Orc will work pretty well too, but if you really want to get the most out of this build, embrace Cat. Embrace Cat. For our Mundus Stone, I'm using the Serpent. I'm using the Serpent because the increase to our stamina recovery is huge when we're fighting Outnumbered, because the number one reason why you die most times Outnumbered is because you don't have any resources to back you up. And since we're primarily using stamina abilities, I went with the Serpent. Trust me, it's very good. On this build, we are a Vampire, more specifically Vampire Stage 3 for the passives that we get. Those being Dark Stalker, which allows us to ignore the movement speed penalty of Sneak. Strike from the Shadows, which increases our weapon and spell damage whenever we come out of invisibility. And Undeath, I know this got nerfed and it got cut in half, but 15% mitigation is still kind of huge, especially when you're fighting Outnumbered. Any mitigation you can get to stack on top of each other is very, very valuable, so that's why you need to be Stage 3 Vampire, so you can get Undeath. Vampire is not negotiable in this build. You have to be a Vampire. For our consumables, for our food, I am using Orzorga's Smoked Bear Haunch. This increases our maximum health and both magic and stamina recovery. This is great since we're digging into both resource pools quite a lot, and this food is pretty expensive. This is rich people food. If you can't afford this, you can use Jewels of Misrule. This does basically the exact same thing, but the maximum values for recovery and health aren't as high, but it is a lot cheaper to get your hands on. Since we're a vampire, I tend to keep a few of these on hand. Corrupting Bloody Mara. When you use this, you will set yourself immediately to stage 4, and you can also pair it with the Purifying Bloody Mara to set yourself down by 1 stage, allowing us to keep control over our vampirism on the go, so we don't have to go out of our way to feed and maintain our vampirism like that. For our potions, we are using the Essence of Health Potion, or the Tri-Stat Potion. Using this gives you a burst to all of your resources and recoveries for each of them as well. This is very good because, like I said earlier, if you run out of resources and your sustain is bad, you die. So having this there when you need it is great because it makes it very hard for you to run out of resources if you manage them right. You can make this with 1 Bug Loss, 1 Columbine, and 1 Mountain Flower. And since Nightblade is a pretty popular class, I mean, you're watching this build video right now, I tend to keep a lot of these with me. This is a stealth detection potion. I don't remember the recipe for this, but basically what this does is when you use it, you'll see Nightblades and stuff in stealth. If they're crouched, if they're cloaked, whatever, you will be able to detect them, and it just lets you keep easier tabs on folks if they're trying to sneak up behind you and stab you in the face. Hello and welcome to my build video. For our gear, on our front bar, we are dual-wielding Tarnished Nightmare axes for the extra crit damage that axes give us. The first axe is Nirnhoned with a Disease enchantment. The second axe is sharpened with a Shock enchantment. If you don't know what Tarnished Nightmare does, basically this glorious set gives you 3 lines of crit chance, and with 5 pieces equipped, dealing critical damage of any kind to your enemy makes them explode with glass, dealing some upfront physical damage, applying the Sundered status effect, dealing some more upfront physical damage and reducing their armor, and this happens in an 8-meter radius, okay? This also is on an 8-second cooldown. I know it got changed recently, so it has a 1.3 second delay, but that just kind of improved its ability to be a brawling set for offense. This set is beautiful because you can time it up so well with in-cap and spec bow now, instead of it just immediately coming out whenever you deal critical damage. This set is still amazing. It's just not that good for ganking anymore, but for brawling, it's definitely taken a step up. On our back bar, we have the Vegetarian's Great Sword with a weapon damage enchantment. It is defending. We have a sword here because with a sword equipped, we get increased weapon and spell damage, which increases our healing power. If you don't know what the Vegetarian proc does, basically whenever you activate Rally, you channel your inner vegan and start generating stacks of weapon and spell damage. At 5 stacks, you can consume them with a heavy attack or a medium weave and deal an explosion around the target that you hit in 8 meters. Tarnished is also 8 meters. You get some pretty good AoE coverage with these 2 proc sets going off, and you can do them at the same time as well. This allows you to keep some good pressure on a lot of people at once. This is a phenomenal back bar piece. You need this on the build. For our head, we are using the Umbra Edge helmet. That means it's medium. medium with a tri-stat enchantment. It is well fitted. This is our other set on this build, Umbral Edge. This comes from the Infinite Archive, and it's a relatively new set. I'm primarily using it because it gives me glowy red eyes that makes me look very cool. Look at him. But whenever you cast a Shadow ability, you gain Umbral Riposte. If an enemy throws an attack at you while Umbral Riposte is active, you apply Major Vulnerability to them and auto-dodge the attack that they threw at you. Major Vulnerability is huge because it allows us to stack a lot of damage modifiers on this build to deal a significant amount of damage to someone. Great for 1v1s, even outnumbered, because you can just pick on the guy that gets the vulnerability applied to him and just pressure him, because 10% is nothing to scoff at. That's a lot of extra damage. For our chest, we are using the Gallant Chain. It is reinforced with a tri-stat enchantment, just for a 1 piece of maximum health. For our shoulders, we are using Umbral Edge Arm Comps with a tri-stat enchantment. It is well fitted. For our waist, we are using Left-Hander's Aegis Belt with a tri-stat enchantment. This is well fitted. This is our mythic item on this build, and if you don't know what this thing does, basically whenever you roll dodge, you no longer dodge attacks, but you get a damage shield instead. That mitigates all damage that you take. This means you can roll stuff you normally can't roll dodge, like Siege, for example. You can just roll dodge Siege now. Other attacks that you can't dodge either, like Curse, for example, if you don't want to block it, you can just roll it instead. And Dots, you can just roll dodge Dots as well. And the biggest thing is Radiant Oppression. If you're getting Zerged down and you have that one Templar in the back spamming Radiant Oppression, you can roll dodge Radiant Oppression. That's why all of our gear is also well fitted apart from our chest, so we can sustain this. This thing is is so valuable for fighting outnumbered. If you don't have it, I'll go over a separate setup you can use at the end of the regular gear coverage. For our hands, we are using Umbral Edge Bracers. That means they're medium with a tri-stat enchantment. These are well fitted. For our legs, we are using Umbral Edge Guards with a tri-stat enchantment. These are well fitted. For our feet, we are using Umbral Edge Boots, meaning that they're medium. This should be a tri-stat enchantment. It is well fitted, obviously, for left-handers. For our jewelry on our neck, we are using a Tarnished Nightmare Amulet with a weapon damage enchantment. It is infused. For our first ring, we are using a Tarnished Nightmare Ring with a weapon and spell damage enchantment. It is also infused. And for our second ring, we are using another Tarnished Nightmare Ring with a weapon and spell damage enchantment. This one should be swift. I don't know, I haven't changed it yet, but extra movement speed is really, really good, especially for kiting and stuff, so I'd change this to swift. On our front bar, for our first ability, we have Killer's Blade. This is our execute ability. It has some very generous scaling and also heals us whenever we get a kill with it. This is beautiful for securing kills. This is an amazing execute. Next, we have Camouflage Hunter. This is here because while it's slotted, if we hit an enemy from behind, we get Minor Berserk, which is 5% increased damage. Also, with the Fighters Guild passive, Slayer, we get another 3% damage. This allows us to not only stack a bunch of damage with percent modifiers, but also it doubles as a way to reveal Nightblades out of stealth. If you don't have a detect or anything, this is great for keeping Nightblades on their toes. Next, we have Healing Contingency. This is a scribing ability. I have it scribed, so whenever I use it, I get a heal and a bunch of damage mitigation. I know not everyone has access to scribing, so if you don't have scribing or you can't use this skill, you can use Healthy Offering in its place. It's another really good heal, but it's not going to do the same thing that Ulfsiles is going to do for you. I have it scribed with a Healing Focus script, Gladiator's Tenacity as a signature script, and Protection as an affix script. For our next ability, we have Surprise Attack. This is our spammable ability. I know the other version of Concealed Weapon's a little bit more popular because it gives you a bunch of other stuff too, but do not ignore what Surprise Attack can do. Not only does it deal really good damage as a spammable and set them off balance, but it's always a critical strike every 3 seconds and applies the Sundered status effect. The Sundered status effect is huge because it's like 5% of our damage on top of our spammable. Like, every time you use Surprise Attack, you're applying Sundered to your target. So that's an armor debuff and some extra upfront damage. This spammable is also amazing because it helps us generate Vate stacks pretty quickly. For our next ability, we are using Merciless Resolve. Glorious, glorious spec bow, okay? Basically, 5 light attacks equals instant deletion of an enemy's hairline. I don't really need to say much else because you've been killed by this in Cyrodiil. For our ultimate ability, I'm using Incapacitating Strike. This is a beautiful ultimate, okay? Not only does it make our target take 20% more damage when we hit them, but if we decide to charge it up, you know, and go over 130 ultimate, it will not only stun the target, but do 10% more damage as well. You get this back incredibly quickly. This ultimate is great. Great for combos too, because of the 20% extra damage. You activate this, and then immediately use a spec bow afterwards. That's normally what you need to kill most folks. On our back bar, for our first ability, we have Race Against Time. This skill is beautiful, and if you don't have access to it on this build, it's going to be very hard to fight, because this skill does so much for us. It gives us Major Expedition, Minor Force, and removes snares and immobilizations from us. That's everything you could want for fighting Outnumbered. The ability to get rid of snares, more movement speed, and extra critical damage, all of that is really, really valuable, especially when you're fighting Outnumbered. If you don't have access to Race Against Time, you can use Phantasmal Escape in its place. You get Major Evasion, which is alright, and you remove snares and stuff. And you get a free roll dodge, but it's nowhere near the same levels of Race Against Time. For our next skill, we have good old Resolving Vigor. This is a simple heal over time that is very, very potent, and also gives us Minor Resolve, increasing our armor even further. If you don't have this on your build, what are you doing? What are you doing? For our next ability, we have Siphoning Attacks. I know not a lot of people like this skill because it costs health, but it's really big on our sustain because you can fully reset a fight with this skill. If you learn how to use this thing properly, you won't find a more valuable sustain tool on Nightblade. Basically, activating this costs us some health, but restores 2,600 magic and stamina to us. And just passively, while it's slotted, light attacking an enemy heals us and restores resources. Same thing with heavy attacks. Beautiful sustain skill. Next, we have Rally. This is our big buff. Very dense skill. Gives us our Major Brutality. Gives us Endurance, so our stamina recovery is a bit better. And it's also a burst heal. And gives us access to the Vegetarian's proc. I can't really play a build without this skill. This skill is just so good. For our next ability, we have Shadowy Disguise. This is not the healing version, but rather the invisibility version, and it's a toggle now. The toggle is a bit difficult to learn, and I'll give you some tips in the combat section on how to manage it. But basically, activating this makes us go invisible, and while we're invisible, our next attack coming out of stealth is a guaranteed critical strike. This also procs our Umbral Edge. Like, you're invisible, bro. Like, what more do you want? You go invisible. On demand. Okay? The skill is required on this build. For our back bar ultimate, I have Soul Tether. This ability and me have a difficult relationship because of that 0.5 second cast time on it for whatever reason, meaning it's not going to go off sometimes and you'll just die and it'll be very annoying, but when it does go off, it's very, very valuable for keeping you alive because you'll stun everyone around you and you'll also heal for the damage that you deal and have a little heal over time as well on top of that. Plus, the passive that you get with Soul Siphoner is pretty good for keeping your healing up as well. It's a good back bar ultimate, but it causes problems from time to time. And don't forget to fill out your passives. I should probably mention really quick too, if you don't have access to healing contingency or Race Against Time. I know I said put Phantasmal Escape on the back bar in place of Race Against Time, but I'd actually put this on my front bar so we can proc Umbral Edge on the front bar, since this is a shadow ability. And then I'd put Healthy Offering on the back bar, since we're already getting the increased healing from Soul Tether, plus we're stacking another 3% with Soul Siphoner, so this heal will go incredibly hard on our back bar. Just a small note. Alright, for our champion points, in the role player tree, we have Master Gatherer, Gifted Rider, Plentiful Harvest, and Steed's Blessing. This passive tends to be pretty important too. Oh, and side note, I know this green tree is changing next patch, so here's the CP I'd run in its place. In the Sweaty tree, we have Duelist Rebuff, Fighting Finesse, Ironclad, and Master at Arms. In the Potato tree, we have Celerity, Sustained by Suffering, Pain's Refuge, and Survival Instincts. Now, I know not everyone right now is paying for ESO Plus, or for one reason or another doesn't have access to something that this build uses, so I made a Walmart version of this build for you fellas. Basically, this is what I'd run if I didn't want to use any DLC stuff, or I couldn't get any DLC stuff, but also, if I didn't have access to left-handers, this is what I'd run in its place. Left-handers is the majority of our survivability and the reason we can fight like the way we do. If you don't have left-handers carrying your damage mitigation, you're going to need to put mitigation elsewhere, so I'd recommend you put Pariah on in its place, and you can still keep the front bar tarnished if you have it, but if not, Red Mountain will work, or Ashen Grip. I tested both of them. Ashen Grip is consistent damage, whereas Red Mountain is a lot more burst damage, so you can pick which one you want, but yeah, this is what I'd run in place of not having any DLCs or anything like that. Alright, welcome to the combat stuff section. If you have no idea what a combat stuff section is, well basically, one, you're new here and you have to subscribe, those are the rules, but second, it is where you come so that way I can learn you up real good about how to play this build, so that way you don't leave a comment on my video about how to build is bad because you never learned how to play it, okay? So step one in understanding how this build is supposed to be played is understanding the stealth mechanics in this game, okay? There's a difference between crouching and cloaking, and while you're not going to be using the crouch mechanic all too often, it's very important to understand that it's available to you as a tool that you can use either to start a fight or, you know, get away from a fight. So crouch is really simple. Basically, you press the sneak button, your character crouches, and you wait for the thing in the middle of your screen to stay hidden, okay? This is great because you don't want to dump all of your magic into your cloak to try and stay invisible, because this will do the exact same thing for the cost of like 60 stamina every second, okay? This is very important for not only getting into a fight, but getting out of a fight while maintaining your resources, okay? Because there is no better way to control the battlefield than through stealth. And Cloak obviously grants you invisibility, but its other function is that it procs Umbral Edge if you're using it, which you can use to not only mitigate damage when you need to go invisible right here, right now, but also, yeah, you get a free roll dodge, and you also apply vulnerability to a target. Thank you, Umbral Edge! Which is huge, but you also have heals that cost magic, so you need to pick which one you need to use when you need to use it, and try and weave them both in and out. It'll take a bit of getting used to, but you'll eventually find the right rhythm between crouching and cloaking to the point where your sustain will be fine and you can manage most fights and control them a lot better. But like I said, crouch is probably going to take a backseat a lot of the time because cloak is just going to be doing so much of the invisibility for you, because you can't really crouch and sneak and get away from anyone if you're getting chased down by 6 people unless you use line of sight very well. But it's good to know what tools you have at your disposal. And Cloak, now being a toggle, presents its own set of challenges, especially when performance is not working very well, where you'll think you'll toggle Cloak off, but it won't go off. So I've been doing my best to get into the habit of forcibly breaking Cloak as often as I can, not only just so I can proc Umbral Edge and then come out of stealth so someone throws an attack at me and the vulnerability can be applied to someone, but also just so I don't dump all of my magic into my cloak because it accidentally doesn't toggle off and lag. The biggest thing to do to break it is, one, sprint. Sprinting out of your cloak is probably the easiest way to break it. So you just activate cloak when you feel that you're safe, sprint out of it instead of toggle it off, because that does waste a global cooldown. The second thing you can do is use a skill like Vigor in order to break it as well, so come out of stealth with a heal. Heck, you can even do it with a roll dodge out of cloak to break it. And the last thing you can do is just like cast an offensive ability on your front bar in order to break it, because doing this allows Umbral Edge to proc. You come out of stealth with an offensive attack, and the first attack thrown at you as soon as you go offensive is also auto-dodged because of Umbral Edge, and that's very nice because you can control it in that manner too. Come out of stealth on one dude, the guy throws an attack at you, you're going to auto-dodge it and apply vulnerability to him while you're going offensive and not taking damage because you dodged an attack. Having control over Umbral Edge like that is pretty good, so that way you can actually put it on the target you want sometimes, because if you know someone's about to hit you, you can cloak, break it, and then Umbral Edge will be up, they'll throw an attack at you, you'll dodge it, and then they'll get the vulnerability, which is always nice. And it's even good for getting away, so say you cloak and someone has a detect up, they throw an attack at you, but you dodge it because Umbral Edge is active, and you can get away because, well, they can't follow up with that because you'll probably be behind some cover at that point. Look, I don't care that Umbral Edge is on the body and we only proc it on one bar. Oh, you can put a back bar, you could do back bar. No, listen, you can't put a price on having red glowy eyes at all times, okay? Look at him. Look at him. Right? Look at him. But for real though, it's very important that you know how to use the toggleable cloak, so that way you don't lose all of your magic, and also just know a few tricks you can do with it, either to force proc Umbral Edge or just have general control over when you're invisible and when you're not, because, well, invisibility is a huge factor of how this build is supposed to fight Outnumbered, so make sure you learn how to use it. Next set of tools you need to know about is medium weaving and bash canceling. Medium weaving is where, well, you do almost a fully charged heavy attack, but you don't, okay? You basically tap the light attack button, but let go before you do a fully charged heavy attack. That is called a medium weave. This has the benefit of allowing you to get off a very quick attack, almost as fast as a light attack in between your skills, that can not only stun and knock down your opponent if they're off balance, but you can proc the vegetarian two-handed proc with this as well. Very good to know how to do this. And bash canceling, if you don't know how to bash cancel, I have a video in the description on animation canceling. You can watch that because bash canceling is important. It will not only help you mitigate random damage, but also give you some extra damage because you're bashing your target. And you have the stamina sustain to bash cancel, so you should probably learn to bash cancel so that way you can fight a lot better. Alright, next is the rotation. The offensive rotation is dumb simple. Basically, light attack, surprise attack, light attack, surprise attack. If spec bow is ready, use spec bow. If in-cap is ready, use in-cap. If spec bow and in-cap are ready, use in-cap into spec bow. And then, if target at 30% HP or less, use killer's blade, okay? The biggest things you can do to maximize your damage while doing this combo is make sure that you're bash canceling, one, and second, time your medium weaves with your off balance and your stuns and your proc sets, okay? What I mean by this is if you set your target off balance and you see you have 5 stacks of Vate and Tarnished is about to proc, medium weave as soon as Tarnished is about to proc, so that way you not only knock down your target, but Tarnished goes off and so does the Vate 2H, and then you follow up with another skill and that's just a lot of burst coming out of nowhere. And if it all crits, you might just instantly nuke your target, something like that. Just know you can do a lot of combos with this build, and just goofing off and figuring out your own combos is very important if you want to do a lot of damage. For your survivability, if you're using left-handers, roll dodge, roll dodge, roll dodge, okay? Roll dodge is where we've put the bulk of our mitigation with that damage shield. It will keep you alive in situations where you otherwise should not be alive because of how good the shield is, okay? And with left-handers, you can roll dodge just about anything, from siege to radiant oppression while you're getting zerged down. It is great for mitigating all that kind of damage. Even dots, okay? Just try and roll everything. You'll be fine most of the time. There are going to be very few instances where you will take so much damage in that 1 second while you're roll dodging that your shield will break and you'll immediately die. It will be very unfortunate and you will be very upset because you're like, okay, left-handers did not do its job. But, you know, you're probably dead anyways, so, I mean, make sure you're constantly cycling your heals and your buffs are always up. If you let some critical buffs, for example, rally, fall off for just maybe 5 or 6 seconds, that 5 or 6 seconds is going to cost you a fight, okay? And same thing with 𝐆𝐫𝐿𝐷s. I would cycle 𝐆𝐫𝐿𝐷s out every 5 seconds just so you can have that extra healing and mitigation that it gives if you have it scribed the way I do, okay? And then you combine that with roll dodge and cloak and just general line of sight, you can put up a good fight on this build for quite a while. Fun fact about 𝐆𝐫𝐿𝐷s, since we're roll dodging all the time, you can actually activate 𝐆𝐫𝐿𝐷s once and then activate it again and then roll dodge and you'll get 2 heals off of 𝐆𝐫𝐿𝐷s. This is because 𝐆𝐫𝐿𝐷s activates whenever you activate something that costs resources. Roll dodge costs resources, so we cast it once, then we cast it again, and roll cancel the 𝐆𝐫𝐿𝐷s, and we get 2 burst heals, and we also get a full health damage shield because left-handers. This 99% of the time will be enough to mitigate and recover from most things, especially dots. Dots have a very hard time hitting us if we're constantly roll dodging, but burst will probably kill you a lot of the time if it's very high burst. So that's where the evasive playstyle of Nightblade comes in with invisibility and line of sight and moving very fast. Make sure you're comboing all these things together so that way you can get the best chance at staying alive while fighting as many people as possible. Yeah. Alright, welcome back to my Nightblade Ingenuity Tech Tips. Today we're going to be talking about Siphoning Strikes and our sustains. So, as you know, whenever you cast Siphoning Strikes, it costs health, right? Well, we have a few ways we can completely offset this and allow us to basically spam it to reset a fight whenever we want. First thing is, you know that 𝐆𝐿𝐷s, whenever you activate an ability that costs any resources, also goes off. So you can activate 𝐆𝐿𝐷s and then activate Siphoning Strikes, and you will offset the cost of that. And then the other thing you can do is... Alright, we must wait a little bit. Okay, when you see your rally is about to expire and it has like 3 seconds left, mash Siphoning Strikes as much as you can, and then you'll get a full burst heal from rally, okay? You can combine it with 𝐆𝐿𝐷s and guarantee that, oh, I'm gonna get all my health back with this siphon. Listen, look, Nightblade Tech Tips, 𝐆𝐫𝐞𝐚𝐬𝐞. Listen, I use these all the time when I'm fighting Outnumbered. It's just a small thing that I think you should learn how to use because siphoning attacks can get you killed if you fail to use it properly because it has a pretty big health cost. But knowing how to offset it with not only your heals, mainly just your heals, is very important because, yeah, you can activate Vigor and just go to town on it. I don't think that works as well, but primarily lining it up with your burst heals is important because, well, learning to use your burst heals and time those with, you know, other key moments in combat is important. So, Nightblade. This concludes Nightblade Tech Tips. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. This is a brawler build, so don't be afraid to be very aggressive with this build, but do know the limits of the build and also what you're capable of as well, because this is not the most tanky 1vx build of all time. This is a very evasive build, okay? Our mitigations are not that high compared to some other builds, but our damage is phenomenal. We can kill a lot of stuff, and we have the potential to kill just about anything with this build. But yeah, stuff can kill you if you're not paying attention or you're not being smart, or, you know, you just get unlucky. Lag does exist, and you'll probably lose a lot of your fights to lag too, because, well, they're still working on it, right? An evasive playstyle and build like this suffers the most from bad performance, because every heal that you cast is very critical for your ability to survive, because if you can't heal, you die, okay? We're not built to just take damage and... No, we're built to evade, heal, and attack, okay? If you want more tankiness on this spec, or you're just not super comfortable with your ability to be very evasive with this playstyle, go ahead and play the Walmart version of this build. You'll definitely be able to take a lot more hits than you will with this current setup, but do be aware you will lose quite a bit of damage, and your burst potential won't be as big. I really enjoy killing people, and I love having really high burst on my builds, so it's spec'd the way that I have it spec'd for a reason. But if you just find that you need more tankiness and survivability, go ahead and just throw on Pariah instead of Umbral Edge, and you'll get that survivability you need. If you have any questions about this build, please leave them in the comments below, and I will try my best to get back to you on those. Or, you know, you could also ask me these questions in my Discord. The link for that is in the description. Come join us. We have the best memes, the best people, and the best emojis, and you are more than welcome to join. And yeah, if you're still watching the video by this point, I do want to offer you an invitation into our wonderful community. All you gotta do is click that subscribe button and the bell thing, and if you want to take your support a step further, I do have a channel members available for you to join. You get some really cool perks, and these guys know how cool these perks are. Thank you, my channel members. And thank you for watching this video. Sorry this video took so long to make, as in, I told you guys I'm making this video like a month ago, and now it's finally getting released, but I'm kind of in the middle of growing up and figuring things out. That and ESO has been very boring for the last 3 months, and I put way too much effort into this build video, so I do hope you really enjoyed what I spent more than 60 hours of my life working on. And with that, have a good night.